Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Final Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Turbo the CEO. My guest tonight is the Sensei, Mike. Boom. And we are live, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Greeting of the day, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night. Not in any particular order, but you get the gist of it. And I do that because we have people from all over the world tuning in at any given time. So I'm giving each and every last one of you guys the greeting of the day. Before we get in to our topic tonight, which is a great topic, we're on episode number 38. And Mike, can you believe it? Episode 38, man. We rocking and rolling, man. Boom.
Yeah, man.
Man.
We slowed down over the last week, but we're all right.
I
We're
think
all
it was
right.
necessary,
You got to sometimes take a breather.
absolutely.
Life gets in the way.
Life, as the kids say, be lifing. That's what they say. So, what are your thoughts with that?
I'm
Have you
digging
heard
it,
that
man.
term?
I'm digging it. I think
Digging
it's amazing. Hell yeah.
it?
That's out. That's out.
Right.
Outstanding. That's outstanding.
Hmm. A couple before we get into our topic, a few admin notes that I'd like to go over, and some things that have been resonating in the last couple of weeks, and it's about life. And you know, you have to ask yourself, are you living or are you just existing? Now, when you ask yourself, man, what is he talking about? The saying is a lot. One of the famous sayings is, you only live once. Well, Mike and I were just having a conversation about that. You should live every day. You only die once. Live every day. You only die once. That way, you're living with purpose. Right? Purpose what drives you. Purpose is what makes you who you are. And without purpose, you're just existing. And what are you
What's the
doing is
point of
just
existing? Why are you
existing.
wasting everybody's oxygen?
Right. You're just existing, you're dying. You should be living, right? Take the time out to live.
When they say smell
Yes.
the roses, they mean
Smell it.
that literally. You
Yeah.
take the moment of time to do something
Mm-hmm.
as stupid as smelling the flowers, looking around you, go, that's beautiful. You know
Mm-hmm.
what? You lived in that moment.
Right.
If you just go through your life, get up, go to work, come home, get up, go to work, go home, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all you're doing every day, and you don't take those tiny moments to enjoy the beauty of the world we're in, because there's a lot of beauty in the world we're in, and we get so distracted by all this technology and all these things, we don't take those moments to go, wow, that's really cool.
Yep.
That's what makes you feel alive. Those
That's what it
clouds,
makes
when the sun is setting, when the sun is
you.
rising, you go, that's just amazing, the
Yeah.
beauty of that. You know what? Those tiny, tiny, tiny moments are moments that you're living. And if you can find one of those moments in a day, that was a good day.
That was a great day. Like
Remember
David Goggins said, you should make your bed every morning.
every morning.
Every morning. That's success. That's the first successful thing you
And at
did.
the end of your day, it's been a
Yeah,
crappy day. You look at your bed before you get in and go, you know what? I made my bed. At least I did that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Preach. That's
Preach.
preaching.
Well, we're gonna get into our show tonight. Like I said, it's episode number 38. We have a very, very interesting topic. We're going to be talking about navigating business ethics and cryptocurrency infrastructure. Now, this is going to be a master class. So, if you are available to take notes, please do. I recommend it because we have some information that is we're always looking ahead, foresight into the future, and we see the future of things, the future of IT, the Internet of Things, and how things not only are from the surface level, which is now, to what they're going to be 5, 10 years from now. And tonight's topic is going to assist with that. And I'm giving you the floor, sir. Boom. Let's
So
go.
when we start in this conversation and digging into the ethics of crypto infrastructure, the first thing you have to say is, what is that? Because most folks have no idea what you hear the words Bitcoin, you hear the words cryptocurrency, these big magic words, and you don't really understand what makes it work. What is it? Because if you don't understand what it is at the base level, how do you understand how ethics play into it? So how can you understand the higher level thinking if you don't even understand what the basics are? So let's take a couple of minutes. We're going to go through the basics, and I'm 10 minutes or so, whatever. We're going to go through the basics of what this stuff is. So you at least have an understanding of what is this thing called blockchain technology, which is what crypto is based on. Because you hear these magic words and you don't know what they mean. You hear the words, it's in the cloud, and you don't understand that in the cloud means it's just somebody else's computer. So if you have a computer sitting at your house and you put data on it, that's at your house. But if you put it in the cloud, it's just on somebody else's computer somewhere else. So let's take that very basic premise and start talking about this thing called blockchain. So if you ever understand about accounting, accounting has this thing called a ledger. Nothing happens in accounting without an entry going into the ledger. I add a penny, it goes from here to here. I take away a penny, it comes from there to there. Every single transaction is tracked in a ledger. It just says, this is what has happened. I can cancel transactions, but it's documented. So you know everything that has occurred at any given moment because you can audit the ledger and it tracks from point in time A to point in time Z, everything that's occurred. So blockchains, it's a digital ledger technology. It records transactions, same as a regular paper ledger does, in a secure, transparent, and decentralized manner. So you say, what
Mm-hmm.
does the word decentralized mean? So let's stop for just a second and say, what is a dollar bill? Now, back in the day, when we talked about what dollars were, we used to carry around gold and silver coins in our pockets.
Right.
This is back in the day. And that
Mm-hmm.
got to be too much to carry around. So what occurred was these things called banks created a piece of paper. The paper says, I am a gold certificate. If you have this piece of paper, it says that the bank has $1 in gold it's holding that equals the certificate. So I can now carry paper on me. And I can give you the paper, which you can go to a bank and you can go get your gold. Then it changed from a gold certificate to a silver certificate. So now, instead of being gold based, it now is silver based. So now
Mm-hmm.
you take this piece of paper and it says, I can go get silver for this piece of paper. So instead of carrying around a pocket full of silver, you carry around paper in different denominations. $1, $5, $10, $20, $100. Those are the common denominations. Okay, who controls that paper is what's called a centralized bank. So a centralized bank used to be divided into 12 different banks. The Bank of New York, the Bank of Chicago, the Bank of, all the different banks, Bank of Dallas, the different banks in charge of their areas, their zones. Then what occurred is we went from a gold standard to a silver standard. Now we have this thing called a Federal Reserve note. So a Federal Reserve note then says these 12 banks are in charge of these notes, which represent a value. That's still centrally controlled. But then what has recently occurred, and when I say recently, within the next so many years ago, we went from a 12 banks to a single Federal Reserve system. How do you
Mm-hmm.
know? Pull out a bill. go to your wallet, open your wallet up, pull out any dollar bill, and I got a dollar bill right here, and it says, oh, look at that. The Federal Reserve System. It says on it. So if I have that, it's a single centralized system which controls the currency. Now, you say, well, why does that matter to me? Because when you're dealing with a blockchain technology, it is no longer a central bank in control of all transactions
Right.
and the value of all transactions. It's now decentralized. It's individual components which make up the chain. And you say, what is that? So if I have a centralized system, I have the boss and
Mm-hmm.
everybody underneath,
Right.
parent, child. In a blockchain, it's called peer to peer. Everybody who's tracking transactions are now equal. We don't have one boss controlling it all. Everybody's equal. So therefore, we operate in what's called nodes. And the nodes operate together and they validate the information and they store the information in the nodes. So instead of a single boss entity controlling it, we have many
Many.
individual
Mm-hmm.
nodes.
Right.
So the beauty of that is no single entity has control. It makes it resilient to failures and tampering. If I tamper over here, it doesn't affect here because guess what? We have the rest of the nodes going, these nodes say this is what it is, and you're saying something different, you're full of crap.
Right.
If it's a central system, anything touching the central system affects everybody.
Mm-hmm.
If that's tampered with, everything is tampered
Everything
with.
is tampered with. Right.
Absolutely. And you say, well, how can that happen? Well, look at in today's world when you hear about Amazon being hacked, Microsoft being down, the big
Mm-hmm.
players are being attacked on a daily basis. We feel the result of that. If it was a decentralized platform, you wouldn't feel the result as much because if one node is hit, the rest are still okay. It makes it resilient to failures, tampering, and almost impossible to alter. I got 6 people over here saying that we're good. One
Right.
says we're not. Everybody goes
Mm-hmm.
like this to the one that's not. And guess what? We're still good.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's what decentralization is. And you say, that's awesome. Now, once data is added or an entry is created in the blockchain,
Mm-hmm.
it's no longer able to be altered. It's now written in stone. You can't change that entry. It's there. So that's you go, oh my God, that's kind of cool. It's because each new block or piece added to the chain is cryptographically linked. So if I have a piece here, I now say the next piece in the block is here.
Right.
This now ties to this. It's now tied to it.
Mm-hmm.
This is solid. I'm now tying to the solid, so therefore I become solid. The next piece tying to me becomes solid. So we add blocks, and as we add blocks, everything is tied to a solid, trusted platform. Each block is cryptographically linked to previous, forming a chain.
Information chain, basically.
Yes, and
Yeah.
transparency is key because transactions on the public blockchains, as in Bitcoin, are
Mm-hmm.
visible to anybody. Here's what that does. That maintains accountability.
Mm.
This is what does not happen in a central system. In a centralized system, everything is hidden
Right.
from the public. Think about the difference.
Right.
Everything's available to the public to look at,
Mhm.
or it's all hidden from the public. Which one do you trust more?
The other option.
The one that I can see
What I can see. Right.
everything.
Yeah.
And if I can see everything, then
Mhm.
great. That's beautiful. I trust that. We have put our trust in the centralized system, trusting the banks and the bankers who run our lives. Now, we've already talked about in the past that currency created in today's world is created by loaning it into existence, not mining gold and silver. So 90% of the currency created in today's in our balance of currency that's available to be used in the world,
Mm-hmm.
90% is loaned into existence. So it's loaned, the only thing created is the principal, never the interest.
Right.
So if you owe 10% interest on $100, at the end of the year you owe 110, there's only 10 and 100 in circulation. Where's the other 10 come from? Because of that basic premise of how money is created, then where's the value in that money, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in cryptocurrency, this is interesting. A user will initiate a transaction, such as either sending cryptocurrency or recording the data. It's called broadcasting. The data is broadcast to the network of nodes. So now I said, I'm doing this action. Everybody, you need to know about it. Once they know about it, they validate it, going, hey, everybody, did this really happen? And
Uh-huh.
every node goes, yep, 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 yep. I get enough of them. We now have a consensus. We
Right.
now know that was valid data. That was a valid transaction.
Mm.
It's a consensus mechanism instead of trusting the guy behind the curtain. Now, we've talked
Mm-hmm.
about who's behind the
Who's
curtain.
behind the curtain? Yep. Check that episode out.
Instead of trusting who's behind the curtain, now we
Mm-hmm.
have a broad consensus that's open to everybody to audit it and review it and go, we all say this is true. Therefore, since it's transparent and open, we can trust that it is true. So the transaction broadcast goes to the nodes. It's called validation. We
Right.
validate, they validate the transaction, use a consensus mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
It's called in Bitcoin, it's called a proof of work. So a proof of work is where miners, data miners, you hear about this all the time, they
Mm-hmm.
solve complex mathematical puzzles. The other part of it is called proof of stake. Validators are chosen based upon their stake in the network. In other words, if you've invested in a network and you're part of it, you're now considered validated. Or you can mine currency, perform these complex mathematical procedures,
Mm.
and you add a block to the chain. Once it's validated, the transactions are now grouped. Everything's cool. So you say, okay, what's the real world application? So now we understand some of the mechanics on how it works. Now let's talk
Right.
about what are the real world applications. Because
Mm.
once we talk about that, we can then get into what are the ethics behind it. So blockchain, it powers cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, which is the most common one we hear about.
Right.
Ethereum, we hear about that one. It
Mm-hmm.
enables a secure and decentralized digital payments. So if I pay you in Bitcoin, it gets entered into the ledger. Everybody validates that happened. That's a valid transaction.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I pay you in cryptocurrency.
Right.
So you say, awesome. What's nice about that is it enables secure and decentralized digital payments. Now, the next piece of that puzzle that is not just money, it's called supply chain. We hear about supply chain. We have supply chain problems. I order a part, there's no part available. I got to wait for 6 months for the part to show up. It's at the dock. It can't get from the dock to the truck to me. We hear about supply chain problems all the time. Inventory is a problem in today's economy
Right.
because we don't keep things at home anymore. Everything's from overseas. So if the docks
Mm-hmm.
are busy and the ports are busy, if you are how do I say this delicately? If you're an asshole state that lives on the coast and there's only a certain number of those, and you're an asshole state and you hate everybody in the world and you want to run the whole world, you say you cannot drive a truck that's more than 5 years old into our ports. So therefore, since you can't drive a truck more than 5 years old into our ports because we can't guarantee that it's environmentally safe,
Mm-hmm.
you can't ship goods. What does that do to the ports? They're so plugged up they can't get goods out. So therefore, we got bottlenecks at the ports. There's all kinds of goods sitting on the boats out in the
Oh
ocean
yeah,
that
absolutely.
cannot get inside this country
True.
because they're dinking us at the ports.
Yeah.
because you have people who don't like this country, who are communists, who say, we're going to make it safe for everybody.
Mm.
And so, because of that, they screw the little guy. So now you can't get the part that you ordered because it now takes a month or two to get it instead of it being overnight. So, blockchain is also used, it takes the product, it tracks the product from the origin to destination. The reason why tracking an item from origin to destination is so important, there's no fraud in between. We know exactly where it is, exactly what's happening, and there's no mistake. So blockchain is important in tracking the supply chain because it guarantees transparency and that it cannot be corrupted. If
Right.
a shipment disappears off the face of the earth and you're not using blockchain, how do you track it? Where's it at? Has anybody ever used FedEx tracking, UPS tracking, United States Post Office tracking? You can watch every step of the way.
Yep.
When you
You sure
order
can.
something, it's here, it's now in Ohio, it's now in Dallas, it's now in
Hmm.
LA, it's now at my doorstep. I can do tracking. If I don't have a system to actually track, it's real difficult to keep an eye on what's going on, and
Right.
things just disappear. They just disappear. We also can use it in healthcare.
Hmm.
You say, well, how can it be used in healthcare? Because we want to secure and streamline your medical records. So if I make sure it's secure and it cannot be corrupted, does that make sure your records are accurate? That's kind of important, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Do you want somebody to mess with your health records?
Oh, trust me. I have stories about my health records. We could talk about that on another episode.
But
Transitioning from active duty
from
to,
one
yeah.
system to another
No.
system, and your records
Mhm.
get shitted to bed.
Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the most recent one, which would matter to us a lot. How about voting systems?
Oh.
If we're using blockchain, we can create tamper-proof voting platforms that
Hmm.
ensure transparency in elections. So the communists have always said, and this is from back in the day, and you can go Google this if you want to go check it out. It doesn't matter who votes, it matters who counts the vote. Okay? So if I've got a blockchain technology, does that make it a little more tamper proof? Because now it's actually, I'm not saying guaranteed, but instead of one entity controlling all of it, it's now vetted against, one vets against the other. We have a peer review and says everything that happened did occur. And we
Hmm.
all have the consensus that it is actually open, transparent, and it happened. I mean, you constantly want to hear about open transparency in voting, but you never see it in practice. Look, I don't care who votes and who you vote for. I could give two bits of a crap. But what I really like to know in my heart that when I vote, my vote actually is counted, that would really feel pretty darn good to know that, you know what, my say was heard. Whether or not I won or lost, I could give two bits, but at least my vote was actually counted. Now, that's why we want to use things like blockchain, because we can guarantee that that occurs. It gives you enhanced security, enhanced privacy. You remove the need for what's called intermediaries. Now, what's somebody in between? I got A and I got C, and the guy in
Right.
between, I got to
Hmm.
trust the guy in between. So if we have a problem with the guy in between, what happens to A and C? It's a mess.
It's a mess. Right.
So we want to remove that completely. And now we have open, transparent, secure. You cannot alter it, you cannot change it. It's clean. I
Hmm.
like to say this: if I have a clean room, anything coming into my clean room must be clean. Therefore, my room is clean. If I open the doors to my clean room and let dirty things in, what happens to my clean room? It's no longer clean, everything is now dirty.
Right. It's not sterile anymore.
It's not sterile anymore. And we
Hmm.
understand about that thought process when we talk about having surgery. The
Hmm.
doctor has to be clean, go through this room, put gloves on, don't touch anything, everything's sterile. And by the time he comes into the room to operate on you, it's clean and sterile and guaranteed sterile. Do they let anything dirty into that room? No, because one time something's dirty in the room, the whole room is considered contaminated.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, you're looking at that. That's kind of the mechanics of how this blockchain works. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to investigate it and check it out, there's ways to go out there pretty easily. And I'm going to give you the name of a book that you can go out there and go googly and go check it out. And the book is called, and I'm going to apologize for having to look this really fast. And it's really a simple book too. Nope, don't care about that. Don't care about that. When I'm teaching my classes, I actually tell people, nope, that doesn't matter. Nope. You had me do this too before. I'm like, nope, I don't care about that. Nope, I don't care about it. You don't need to know that. That's garbage.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need to worry about that. I'm gonna make this so simple. Watch this. I'm gonna go books on understanding cryptocurrency. This is so disgustingly easy. It just kills me.
I know. I had a few references that I was going to list at the end, but I'm glad you're knocking out a few.
Well, there's one that's here that's so easy. Just the basics, okay? The very basics, beginner basics. They got one called the Bitcoin Standard.
Mm.
It explains the history. It lays the whole thing out. It's so perfect. You're new, you don't understand. You want to look at the broad analysis of it, understand the history of what created and how it began. Because if you don't understand the beginnings of something, how do you understand how it's working today?
Absolutely.
So the Bitcoin Standard, okay? No one called crypto assets. And here's another one that's really good one. Blockchain basics. I mean, come on. You can put it into something you can break it down into tiny pieces. Because I can't eat an elephant all at once. But if I cut him in little tiny chunks,
I hope not.
then I can chew on that elephant for a while, right?
Right.
So that's what some of these books are designed to do. They break it down. You understand what's going on without being too technical. Because look, being technical is great if that's your industry, if that's what you do.
Yeah.
But if you're not into that on a regular basis, you need something that translates from techno geek into plain speak.
Right.
Because then once you get the concept, everything else is easy. And this is how I teach classes. I will take information you already know and I'll tie other information to it. Then when you go to regurgitate that information, you are regurgitating information you actually already know. It's easier to pull information back out that you already have a tie into than something that's completely alien to you.
Yeah, it's relatable.
If I start talking about lizard people with gills, you're like, what the hell is that? You know what I'm saying? So, and then when you intermediate reads, you go mastering Bitcoin. And all you have to do is this, Google search, I want to understand more about cryptocurrency and blockchain.
Right.
What book should I read? And bam, there it is. This is one of those things called call to action. Don't trust what I tell you. Go out and do your own homework.
Right, because we're only giving you breadcrumbs.
I'm going to guide you and say, look that way. But you're going to have to go that way if you want to know what's going on. Absolutely. I can't give it all to you. There's too much information. It's called TMI. Too much information. The problem with too much information is it's so overwhelming. How are you ever going to have knowledge if it's too much? Right? Because then you give up and you're like, oh, I can't do this. I just can't do this. It's just terrible. So let's get back on topic, right?
Yes,
so now
sir.
we've talked about, I gave you a call to action. Go learn about this stuff. So now let's move on to the next phase, which is called advantages of the blockchain. Why would I do this? Why don't I just trust somebody and call it good? Because that's called being NTFB. That's called not too freaking bright. Right? Do you want to be a dumbass? You ever watch the 70s show? Huh? Red calls, he calls his son a dumbass all the time. Don't be a dumbass. You want to understand something, learn it on your own. Go figure it out.
Yeah, go figure it out, people.
Look, the world is here. We have so much information at our fingertips, more information historically we've ever had in the history of mankind,
Hmm.
as we know it in this particular go around.
Right.
Different subject.
Yeah.
Um, we have all this information, yet we're the dumbest sons of bitches ever walked the face of the earth. We're dumber than a box of rocks.
And we're
Because all
getting
we do
dumber by
is
the minute.
we doom scroll through Facebook and YouTube and
Hmm.
Instagram, and we doom scroll, and it just blows hours of our life, and we gain nothing from it. Stop that garbage. Go learn something else. Just go learn something else.
Yeah.
Go do your own homework, even for 10 minutes at a time. Just go do your own homework.
Right.
Get a book and read the damn thing. If you can't read because you're not too bright and you can't read because you went through the public education system, I'm sorry, you don't know how to read and write. Do arithmetic because they don't teach you that anymore. They'll teach you that you can go to whatever bathroom you think you want to go at that moment. So if that's the school you've gone through and you don't get the concept of reality,
Pretty much.
then do an audiobook for God's sake. Oh,
This is for entertainment purposes only.
I'm a firm believer of decentralization.
Mm.
And I'm going to segue here for a second. When you talk about the education system, I firmly believe it needs to be held to the lowest possible common denominator, meaning please let our education system be dictated by the local people at the local school boards. Let them be in control of education. We put those people in locally. We have control of them locally. They respond to us more locally. The more regional, state, and federal that's involved in our education system, then the poor result we get out of our education system. Our kids come out of high school and they can't read, they can't write, they can't even socially interact with anybody outside of their own generation. They're so disadvantaged. It takes them 4 years of college just to have a high school education.
Mm.
It's pathetically sad. And they have $100,000 of debt to prove it to get a high school education. And then when I say high school education, I mean the education level that kids from 50 years ago used to come out of 8th grade and have the education level of college students today. And so it's pathetically sad to see that. But that's a different subject. Let's get back to the advantages of blockchain. Now that I segued into how I love our education system, and I think that our guidance counselors are the greatest people in the world who teach our children that the best things are out there for them if they go out. Yeah,
Hey, you know what? Let's give it up to our educators. Let's give it up to them.
I love educators. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. I love educators. That's not where the problem lies.
Mm-hmm.
The problem lies in the regulators. And I hate to say this. I'm going to say it.
Don't say it, Mike. Don't say it. Don't say it.
The regulators
Yes.
who have sold us a bill of goods that this is the right way to do it.
Mm.
And the problem is that that's not the right way for everybody. And so we need to understand that our children need to learn skills to earn a living, not how to make pottery. They don't need to major in gender studies, for God's sake. They need to understand how the world works. Now, I get it. If you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer or something that requires that, absolutely go that direction, because that's going to get you what you need to move forward. But if you're not going to be in one of those career fields which requires that, then what are you doing? You're not going to college just to party. That means you're lazy. I'll bet you don't even make your bed in the morning.
Right.
Right? Go out there and get a job, a job, and you'll be happier in the long run with no debt.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Trades, I am 110%. I am 100%. There's no such thing as 110%. I am 100% behind our young generations getting into the trades. That's where our future lies. It does not lie in 4-year degrees, master's degrees, doctorates. It does not lie there. That's such a tiny percentage of our population. The majority of our population needs to be focusing on the trades. And if these young kids don't have the gumption or the to get into the trades, go in the military. And if the 1% is allowed in the military, get in there, and that's gonna give you some tools you need to succeed in this world.
But you know, Mike, that model may only exist for the next 2 to 3 years.
I know, I get it.
AI,
It's
all of those things,
destroying it.
destroying it.
We had a podcast on that, didn't we?
Yeah.
And we only touched on the industries affected by it, didn't we?
Yeah.
We didn't even get into it. We only just hit the surface. Look, I told you, even right now, while we're on this podcast, I'm using AI to help me consolidate information to be able to be more pinpointed so that when we're discussing a topic, I can be concise. And we're
Yeah.
using it as we speak. We're using it. I'm sitting here typing things as we're doing to make sure that I can pinpoint what the message is going to be so that
Right.
the audience is going to understand
Mm-hmm.
and not waste their time. I don't want to
Yeah.
waste your time. If you're watching this podcast, I want it to be entertaining, informational, educational, and I
Mm-hmm.
also want it to be driving. I want it to be a driving force to get you to
Absolutely.
act. I would need those moments of call to action. Those are
Mm-hmm.
so important when we do this so that you can actually improve yourself. Don't sit there and be a drone in this world.
Right.
Get out there and do something good for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get back on subject. Why do I want to use, and this is what I teach too, why do I want to use blockchain? What's my advantages? Enhanced security,
Mm-hmm.
enhanced privacy because I'm now anonymous.
Right.
They're not going to gather my name, social security number, and date of birth, which can be compromised. Look, we've already had the moments where we've talked about during a previous podcast that your name, social security number, and address have already been compromised. Consider it 100% of the U.S. population is being compromised right now on the dark web. Done. So if those pieces of information are already out there, that means identity theft is so easy to accomplish. So if you're using blockchain, you are anonymous and it's hard to compromise you as a person because now your data is anonymous. That is a super critical piece of this puzzle to protect you from identity theft.
Right.
Huge. I'm a blockchain fan. Why? Because you can't steal my crap. You can't steal my identity. Now we're talking. You eliminate the need for the intermediary, the guy who's the salesman in between. So I got the product, I got a consumer, I don't need the salesman. Let the consumer buy the product. Done.
Done. Done deal.
Less cost. Promotes transparency, trust in transactions, and here's
Mm-hmm.
the biggest one of all. You ensure data integrity. Integrity. Can I trust that the data is true? That's huge. Because if I don't have faith in the system, why would I use the system?
Right.
So then you go, what are my disadvantages now? I got all these great, wonderful things you're telling me about, and this is fantastic. You're saying, oh my God, I love this stuff. It's fantastic. It's great. What are the bad things about it? What is the downfalls, the weaknesses, the pitfalls? What are the things that could be dangerous when you're talking about blockchain? Scalability. You're trying to process large volumes of transactions. So if we all start using it, instead of being one or two transactions, it's billions of transactions simultaneously. So can that be overwhelming? It's a challenge for some blockchains that can't handle that kind of load. Let's talk about examples of that. Did anybody watch the Tyson fight?
Absolutely.
And what happened halfway through the Tyson fight?
We were fighting Netflix. Basically.
Netflix was not able to handle the load, and
No,
we
that
were
infrastructure was not in place.
buffering, and
Yeah.
we're over there going, come on, get on
Yeah.
with the fight. And you had to
Yeah.
wait for it to buffer the fight because there wasn't enough bandwidth to handle that much traffic.
It might have been
Okay.
a test model. A
Well, it's
litmus.
called, we
Yeah.
call this, it's typically the term is called breaking the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Too much traffic and not enough pipe, right? The demand is this big, the pipe is this big, can't handle all the traffic, somebody has to wait.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal. The other consideration that we have to really take into consideration here is called energy consumption.
Mm.
If I'm doing
That's the
proof of
big one.
work,
That's
if I'm creating Bitcoin using
mm-hmm.
this mathematical, we're using these massive NVIDIA graphics cards, and they use an enormous amount of electricity and create a huge amount of heat. Okay, and it's an enormous problem. If you want to research that, look out energy consumption of Bitcoin creation, and there's problems with it. It takes so much power, and our grid is already
Yeah, we
tapped
talked
out.
about that before in one of our episodes.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So the power grid's already tapped out,
Mm-hmm.
especially when these idiots are taking down dams. That's the smartest thing I've ever heard. If you want to look that one, let's go ahead and do a quick momentary uh, call to action. Go look up Klamath Dam disaster. Just Google that sometime. This is what happens when idiots who think that they're going to save the fish remove a dam, and guess what they do? They kill more fish than they saved. Oops, because they didn't do their homework.
Yeah.
Call to action: Klamath Dam disaster. Go check that out. Because guess what? These people that quote unquote claim to be scientists and environmentalists, they don't know what to talk. They're guessing. They're over here going, I think that might work. We should try it someday. Ah! That's what's happening. They don't understand the concept of breathe when they're smoking their weed, man. They inhale and they never let it out.
Mike, there's a lot of guesswork that is taking place in all areas today. It's a lot of guesswork.
It's all who has the money
Mm,
is going to get what they want.
yep.
Because reports are going to be written based upon the funding. If you want to know why a report was written a certain way, look at who funded it.
Follow the money.
Follow the money, always has been, always will be.
Yep.
So the key takeaway here is blockchain is revolutionizing industries,
Mm-hmm.
just like AI is. We're offering decentralized, secure, and transparent way to manage data and transactions. It's a huge plus. It's a plus across the board. Its potential is vast. It's a new wild west. Okay, but you have to be careful of diving into the deep end without knowing what the water temperature is, right?
Right.
Because if the water temperature is 38 degrees and you dive in, you got what, 10, 15 seconds before you're screwed?
Yeah.
All right, the water's 80 degrees and warm. There you go. Now you can live a
Yeah.
little while in the water. So you got to know what you're dealing with, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So you go, well, now that we've talked about that and we've talked about what's the mechanics of it and the advantages of it and some of the disadvantages of it, now we'd like to talk about the ethics involved in it. This is the big deal. This is where
Now,
we're hitting ethics.
now, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's a segue to lead to my first question. We're talking about ethics. You ready? I know you are. Building ethical infrastructure. What steps can businesses take to integrate ethics into their cryptocurrency infrastructure?
So one of the pieces of that puzzle, because that's a very complex question. That's not a simple question. That's a complex question.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if businesses are going to be involved in using not just cryptocurrency, but this entire blockchain process, and they're going to implement that into their systems, the first thing you need to do is understand, number one, what am I dealing with?
Right.
What are the mechanics of it?
Mm-hmm.
And then I have to write what's called policies and procedures. And I know people don't like to hear about P&P because that's boring stuff. But you have to be able to, in your organization, no matter how big or how small it is, you have to write what's called P&P. And the reason why that's so important is because it tells you in this situation, we're going to act this way. So you're going to lay out your framework of how you use that technology and how you're going to make sure that it is proper, correct, clean, traceable, trackable. You have to now put in place all of the paperwork because nothing is done until the paperwork is done. And you have to then, once you have put in place all of that infrastructure, you now can be implementing pieces of the blockchain technology.
Mm-hmm.
Because now you not only understand it, you understand the implications. And one of the things you have to do is make sure you have integrity. Integrity means that I trust what is happening is true. So once you put in place all of your paperwork that says, I'm going to do it this way, I'm going to use it in this fashion. And then when you do, you can audit that based upon your policies and procedures, and you can now track it, audit it, and now you're clean from beginning to end. If you don't put in place the policies and procedures, it's crazy. It's the wild west.
Right.
Then you don't trust that it's good or not.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to put in place the policy and procedures, which means you are implementing your ethics into the equation, which says we are going to use it this way, and this way. That's it. That's how you implement your ethics into the equation, is you document your P&P, policies and procedures, and create that, follow it. Now I know here's how I'm going to operate in that world. When you do that, you can then be a part of the solution, not the problem.
Right.
And ethically, it's following your company's directives.
Mm-hmm.
So you say now, okay, let's talk ethics. What's on the horizon, which is potentially going to upset this entire mess? Well, currently, crypto, blockchain, cryptocurrency, and all these things are all decentralized and they're out in the world. Nobody's controlling them. Who likes to control everything? What type of organization likes to control everything? Is it a private business? Do they like to control everything? No, they only control their business and what affects their business. Okay, that's fine. So it's not business or private business or corporations that want to control everything. What single organization that we're aware of wants to control everything? There's only
I'm
one.
not. I'm not saying that on this
It's
platform.
called the GOVT. Okay? There's only one organization we know about who wants to control everything, and that's the GOVT. So, if that particular organization is going to get involved in cryptocurrency, you go, wait a minute, took all of our advantages away from us. It's no longer transparent. It's no longer open. It's no longer verified peer to peer. We
Mhm.
can't trust it anymore because now it's controlled by a central organization. Holy crap. What's that central organization? What is their cryptocurrency called? And it's called the digital dollar.
Yeah.
Here we
Yep.
go. Ring the bell, baby. Because
Mhm.
guess what? Bang! What's coming? Now that we are used to and accepting the validity, transparency, and the trustworthiness of cryptocurrency, somebody from the GOVT is going to come by and they are going to abscond it, steal it, take over it, and destroy the little guy. So, who likes to destroy the little guy? I only know one type of organization who doesn't like competition to the point where they don't give a damn. So, here's the problem. There's a US central bank digital currency which is called CBDC, commonly referred as the digital dollar. It's it's ready, it's on standby, it's on the bench and it wants to come into the game. So, you go, all right, what are the problems with it? And what are the pros? What are the cons? So you say, okay, the pros are this increased competition. That's good. So it's going to be different. It's a government backed, stable. Here you go. Give
Mhm.
up your freedom for stability. We've heard that before. 1943, 1945. We've heard that happen to us before. Give up your freedom for stability. Okay. Potentially reducing the appeal of private digital assets. So you're going to say the government now is going to back this. So they're going to give the illusion of security. So the government's going to back the digital dollar. It's going to potentially reduce the appeal of the private digital currencies because now the government's behind it. If it goes belly up, the government backs it. You see there? In
Right.
cryptocurrency, if it goes to crap, you're out of luck. You're
Yeah.
SOL. Okay.
Mhm.
And we've seen many digital currencies, cryptocurrencies.
Oh.
Uh,
Oh
go
yeah.
Google that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah. You
Google
moving that one.
failed cryptocurrencies
We're not
and
gonna.
go
We're not. Yep.
go,
We're not gonna
go
talk
look
about
at
that one.
that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So
Mhm.
now you got one because we've had failed cryptocurrencies. We now going to have the government backed. It's not going to fail, which is great. But what's the impact of that? It's called regulatory impact. That's a big deal, right? Because along with the government comes what? If they're going to give you something, what are they going to do? They're going to take twice as much as they give
Oh.
you. They're
Absolutely.
going to put in effect
Mhm.
regulatory compliance in the guise of it's going to keep you safe. Now, if you want to, I would personally rather die on my feet as a free man than live on my knees as a peasant. Okay. And I didn't say the word slave because guess what? If I die on my knees, I'm a peasant. Just saying. So stricter regulations. It's going to be so controlled that it's going to be unbelievable. So therefore, everything you do in that environment is now going to be tracked. So they say today you have what's called a social credit score. If you don't know what that means, Google that shit.
Yeah.
The moment that a digital dollar goes into effect, we now have the compliance of a social credit score. So let's
Mm-hmm.
say that you drive a big diesel truck and it pollutes the environment, according to some people, and you go out to go buy 50 gallons of diesel and they go, oh, you bought 50. Sorry, man. You bought 40 last week. You can't buy 50 this week. You can only buy 20. And your credit card doesn't work anymore.
Everything's
And
gonna
you're only allowed to purchase what you're allowed to purchase.
be. Yep.
Right now, states and credit card companies have gone into collusion, and I say collusion because it is collusion, and they are now tracking all ammunition purchases and reporting to the states you live in all ammunition you purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to exercise your Second Amendment rights and purchase ammo, guess what? It's being tracked, and they're reporting it to the state. So if you think you can live in a state and buy ammo, your credit card company's narking on you. It's already in place. So this is what we call a social credit score, and it's
Yep.
a call to action. I really need whoever's listening to go Google what is a social credit score. So now you understand what's coming, because by God, this is the tidal wave. This is coming. It's on the doorstep. If you don't think it's coming, your head is in the sand. This is coming to
Mm.
a doorstep near you.
Near you. Yep.
So
Can you imagine the amount of crime that digital currency will potentially eliminate because there will be no cash transactions?
well, you're gonna kill cash. That's the whole
Yeah.
key. Kill
That's
cash.
the whole key. Kill
Mhm.
cash. Kill the
But then the
cash.
only criminals are the government.
Mike, you gonna get us taken down, bro. Wait, I think somebody's knocking on my door. Hold on.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that. So I was thinking out loud. That's all that was.
Right.
Hopefully the thought police don't come and get me. What happens is you have market dynamics, right? Because
Hmm.
once that comes into play and gets traction, dude, it's going to change the dynamics. So the problem is, let's stop for 2 seconds. Stop, back up, do your homework, call to action, do a quick search. How many government agencies have invested in the stock market? That's all I want you to look up. Guess what? Governments, local governments, city governments have invested their capital, their money, their taxpayer dollars
Hmm.
into the stock market.
Yeah.
And do we all know the stock market's risky?
Yeah, we
So
do.
why would you take taxpayer dollars and invest it in the stock market? Hang on, hang on. Oh, I'm getting a headache. Oh, I'm getting a headache. But guess Google how many have.
Yeah.
So then you wonder why the policies that those governments are creating and those city governments, county governments, state governments, how many policies they create which are now going to be favorable to the stock market. That's called legalized gambling. They're
Yeah.
gambling
Hmm.
with your money. Of course, they're going to put everything in place to keep the stock market bumped up because if they don't, they lose all your money.
Yeah.
So, this is why digital is so wonderful. But the moment the GOVT is involved, it is the most in my generation. I'm an OLD guy. In my generation, I personally consider the digital dollar to be the most dangerous thing on the entire horizon since I've been born. And I'm OLD. The most dangerous thing I've ever seen come, and I'm talking about everything from the Patriot Act, which persecutes citizens doing not a damn thing, all the way through the digital surveillance of the three-letter organizations. I didn't mention any of them in today, or anything that has ever happened. The manipulated real estate market and the crash of the market in real estate. And if you ever want to watch a movie about that, talk about The Big Short.
Oh
Um,
yeah, great movie.
Watch it and know that they've spent it and they're still
Uh-huh.
doing it today.
Yeah.
So, of all of that I've ever learned in my entire life, I consider this to be the number one, absolutely, swear to God, most dangerous thing to ever come upon the horizon that we live on. If
Mm.
you want to do something to understand that the tidal wave is coming, when the tsunami is coming and you're standing on the beach, what do? You have to understand what's coming. Therefore, you must do everything you can do to study this thing called the digital dollar. I
You,
am telling you, if you do nothing else in this world, that's the number one thing you need to study and be very well versed on, because when it hits, not if, the entire World Bank is ready on standby for a fully global digital currency. And when the moment the digital dollar hits that and goes live, everything in play, what life as we know it is done.
you spoke on a lot of different points, Mike, and this is we
Entertainment purposes only.
entertainment purposes only. We're going to continue this conversation. We owe you guys another episode anyway because we've
Life got in the way.
life got in the way. So um between now and Sunday, we're going to pick this conversation back up and continue it. There's a lot more information that we want to
Oh,
get
you're
out to
going
you
to
guys.
get me in
I didn't think
trouble.
I didn't think that, man, is going to go in so in depth into this, but it's so many different elements that we need to talk about and get information out to you guys. We're going to have another show and we're going to continue the conversation. And listen, we can go. Oh man, this is the big one. This is a big one. And like Mike said, the amount of oversight that can go into this and the potential, well, it's not even potential, the life changing consequences
You're only
that
allowed to buy one loaf
will
of bread
occur.
this week.
You said what now?
You're only allowed to buy one loaf of bread this week.
One loaf, a single,
That's what I'm saying.
like cigarettes, a
But
single.
if it's tracked to that degree, don't think the
Mhm.
systems can't track you to that degree. You're smoking too many cigarettes. You can't
Yeah,
buy no more. You drink too much booze. You're a drunk. Oh, we're gonna cut that off because we know better than you.
imagine monitoring and controlling luxury items. Oh,
Big, big brother.
mm-hmm. Yeah,
Did you? And here's the deal: it's not going to be human doing it. It's
oh, of
all
course.
going to be 100% AI generated
Hmm.
algorithms.
Yeah, yeah,
The Matrix is real.
so real. And as my mic goes,
Ah, it's real.
yeah, man, it's going to be crazy. What day? What day? Are you, let's see. Today's Tuesday.
Well, Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Right. Thursday's
If
Thanksgiving.
you want to hit me up again, let's do on Friday because I can do
Friday.
a Friday.
All right, let's
Um,
do it
I'm,
Friday.
I'm a maniac, and as an IT engineer, I work on evenings and weekends and holidays. So I'm working on that window. So I
Mhm.
should be available on Friday to be able to dance a little bit.
Okay, we're gonna
We're
dance
going
on
to try
Friday.
not to go to jail. We're going to try not to get shut down. We're going to try not to
Mm.
be shadow banned. We're going to try and have disclaimers so we don't get shadow banned. But it's challenging in today's world when you start speaking the truth about the reality of the world we live in, and you pull the curtain back. That the people that you're pulling the curtain back on don't like that so much.
No, they don't.
So it's very. I'm not going to say risky. I'm going to say it's very much a um, delicate
Censorship.
procedure. Well, it's delicate. You have to be
Yeah.
delicate about
Mhm.
how you talk about this. And look, it's nothing that I'm telling you here at all, or things that are not easily found out if you want to find out about them. You
Right.
just have to be pointed in the correct direction. And you can go out and find out anything you want. You just have to know what you're looking for. It's all there, and there's nothing hidden. There's no such thing as conspiracy. That is a full fallacy, BS lie. Nothing is a conspiracy, because a true conspiracy no one knows about. So therefore, if it's out there, it's not a conspiracy. So the number one thing, call to action, you can do if you're doing research, if you're searching things, do not use Chrome or Google. Just don't. There are a million other search engines that work. Use DuckDuckGo, for God's sake. It
Yeah,
blocks
use
all.
Duck. Duck is
It,
good one.
DuckDuckGo blocks all of Google's crap.
Yep.
So just use that. If
Yeah.
you do nothing else, use DuckDuckGo. And I've said this previously in other sessions, and I said, you know what? Use DuckDuckGo. Perform your searches there. They're not tracking your crap, and just go do it your own. Do your thing, and use alternative platforms.
Yeah.
You know, not taking away from what the platform we're on right now, but Rumble is a good platform. MeWe is a great platform for that. You pay for it, so therefore you're not the product. And there's other platforms out there that can be used if you need to find out information. But be fastidious. Do your homework.
Mhm.
Don't trust everything you see and hear. Cross check it. Act like you're a blockchain. Peer review it. If it looks like a duck, smells like a duck, acts like a duck, and tastes like a duck, it might be a duck.
It might just be a duck. Quack,
Might be.
quack.
Quack, quack, motherfucker, quack, quack.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. Oh man, time went by so fast. That was an hour. That was our show. I'm Turbo, the CEO, brought to you by our Trinity Entertainment, our Trinity Music Group. He's Mike. He's the sensei. He's our guest tonight. We're going to pick this conversation back up this Friday. So tune in this Friday because we have more information to get out to you Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there, be square. We're going to get it to you. Make sure you bring pen and paper because this is masterclass and we're giving you the class.
Call to action.
Yes, sir. And on that note, y'all have an amazing week, a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving is important. Count your blessings.
Count your blessings.
Period. I don't care what you do on Thanksgiving. I don't care what your religious beliefs or your social beliefs are. No matter what, take that moment, take that time, count your blessing. Be thankful for all the beautiful and good things in your life. I don't care what else you do. If you want to get together with family, not relatives, but family, and you want to enjoy a meal together and share this experience and be thankful for the good things in your life, is an opportunity to do that. And I believe wholeheartedly we need to do more of that, not less.
Well, it's going to come a time where we may be forced, but that's another conversation. Y'all have a great night. This is the final boss.